You found out that someone was, they were blackmailing you and threatening to reveal something.
Yeah.
How did you find that out, and is that why you posted this?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I got emails from a certain person, and he was not okay with the fact that I was lying and wanted to expose that. So he had a very pressuring tone of voice, and he was like, if we don't get an answer by tomorrow, it's out. And I feel like his entire goal was with this to destroy my life.
I think John KUCKIAN blackmailed NIKKIE tutorials. That's it. That's the whole video. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, welcome to a slightly different kind of video than normal. Last week, NIKKIE tutorials, one of the chief beauty gurus and one of the most creatively minded people on this whole gosh darn website, made a video where she came out as transgender. For her entire life, she has been living as a transgender woman, or in other words, a woman. And because she has a makeup channel, she never felt the need to publicly come out. She never felt like she was in that moment and she wanted to talk about it. And personally, I think her realizing that she didn't want to do that and taking her time with that, I think that is amazing. She has always known who she was, and she said, I don't need to tell people until I want to. And this is absolutely no one else's business but mine. And frankly, I, Shannon, Creepshow Art, think the amount of balls that it takes to do something like that, the amount of like strength it takes to do something like that, that's amazing. That's astonishing. She said, this is my business and I'm going to keep it that way until I say otherwise, despite the fact that we live in a day and age where everyone's so public about everything. She kept that for herself. She is a queen who was looking after her own heart and looking after her own mental health, and not enough people put themselves first like that. However, as we all should know by now, the opportunity to come out at her own time and speak about her truth was taken away from her. And she was forced into a position that so many people in the LGBT community have been forced into. And that's called being pushed out of the closet. Her ability to come out on her time, at her pace, at her leisure, was taken away by someone. Completely and utterly out of malice and out of spite. And it is not okay. You see, we live in a world where people are so incredibly hurtful and spiteful still towards LGBT people that sometimes a man or a woman hides their identity to be able to live comfortably and work. Like, they hide that shit so they can keep their job. There are actors who are gay who fear coming out because it means that they feel like they can't play straight actors and they're not going to get hired as much. So when people like Perez Hilton or whoever did this to NIKKIE tutorials takes that into their own hands and forces those people into those positions, it usually means a bout of depression or self-harm or self-loathing or worse, and by happenstance, a complete free fall from their entire career. This has been documented in the numerous times Perez Hilton has done this to men in Hollywood. But luckily, that was fortunately not the case for NIKKIE, because instead of letting this person hold this over her and let this be a threat and treat her with that amount of disrespect, she came out in this powerful video where she talked about her experience and how she is blessed to be where she is today. She was glowing in that video. And full transparency, I was open mouth sobbing during the duration that I had to watch it multiple times to fully grasp everything. I have never seen her look so powerful, and it was impactful. Now, time has gone by and people are still as curious as ever as to who blackmailed NIKKIE, and that is what this video started as. I was going to go over every reason why people think it's Jared Blandino, the owner of Too Faced, or why they think serial blackmailer and terrible person Jeffree Star could be the one who did it, and then at the end I was going to give my theory that it was actually the one, the only John KUCKIAN, because I noticed some things that had led me to believe it was him. I realized there were some things that made me think John could do this because he has done this. He's done it multiple times before. However, as I was making this video, as I was writing my little notes to get everything together and to like compile all the evidence against, oh, people think it's this guy, I didn't think it was right to put out a video where I talk about how these other people could have done something that I honestly don't believe they did. Do I think Jared Blandino is a terrible person who treats minorities like shit and puts out subpar makeup so consistently that his brand hasn't been successful in years? Oh yes, absolutely. Do I think Jeffree Star is a huge manipulator who treats his fans and everyone like trash unless they can benefit him in some way? Undoubtedly. However, I don't think Jeffree would warn a bitch before exposing a lifelong secret like this, especially when he can seek to profit off them. He certainly didn't mind just blatantly accusing James Charles of stuff with no warning, and I also don't think that Jared Blandino is such a bad, stupid business person that he would straight up threaten someone like that. that and give them a timeline when he was going to go public with the story. Because even if I think he's a terrible person, I realize that he would be smart enough to know that she's gonna flip the script and make a video herself. He's stupid, but he's not that stupid. You know who is that stupid though? John KUCKIAN. And we know that because he's done this before. Now there are some things that we know for sure happened in this situation. 1, the person who blackmailed Nikki is a man. 2, he blackmailed her through email and contacted her that way. 3, he gave her a deadline before he revealed her truth, allowing her time to put the video out herself. 4, he did it with a sense of moral superiority and said that he was only doing it because he didn't like that she was lying, as if her not being truthful was some slight to the world at large. That is basically all we know about the situation, and some of this information we got brand spanking new from an interview that aired yesterday with NIKKIE Tutorials and Ellen DeGeneres. And frankly, just a complete side note, I'm offended at how gorgeous NIKKIE looked. Like, I can't even manage to look good with like Facetune and like in daylight or normal lighting, and there she is under those huge lights on sets, just beaming, just radiant. Ugh, how am I the same species as her? She's so gorgeous and I'm a thumb. Back to the video. From what we know about the situation with what happened to Nikki is exactly the same thing as what happened to Thomas Halpert years ago. And you know who did it that time? John KUCKIAN. Now, if you don't know who John KUCKIAN is, I don't blame you. He's recently fallen off completely and is kind of like the ghost shell version of who he used to be. But he was a very prominent YouTube drama channel who was known for harassing YouTubers and manipulating people into doing what he wanted. He grew in popularity incredibly quickly, was one of the most successful drama channels on the scene at the time. Now he's been passed up by nearly everyone, but at the time he was a big deal. And like it often does, the power and influence quickly corrupted him and showed how toxic he was in his soul. Because a person so much as disagreed with him, he sent his Kucky fam after them and got their channel completely terminated and shut down. He accused multiple people of being sexual predators with no proof, and took a YouTuber's voice and turned it into a ringtone, which he profited off of and made plenty of money. But when called out about how disrespectful it was, especially since that YouTuber was having a mental breakdown when that happened, he lied and said all the money was going to be given to charity, only to be caught lying about that as well, which is, yes, charity fraud and is a crime. He also accused Jeffree Star of doing multiple drugs, said he had meth face. He accused other drama channels of covering up crimes when he disagreed with them, made smear campaigns accusing some of them to be abusers, and he also started a makeup brand that gave people rashes and was easily bought off AliExpress. But one of the worst things he has ever done and ever did was to a creator named Thomas Halpert, who is problematic in his own right, of course, but that's neither here nor there in this video. You see, like Nikki, John reached out to Thomas to let him know he was going to make a video on him and expose him. He told Thomas he was going to ruin his career. He was going to expose him in a video and let people know the truth, quote unquote, or at least his version of the truth, which was that Thomas was a sexual predator because unsubstantiated and flimsy claims that made no sense. John told Thomas he was going to make a video on him and ruin his career unless Thomas Halpert sent him thousands of dollars and said, "Give me money or this goes up in 2 days." And Thomas, being a smaller channel, sent him what he could. And mind you, I'm not saying this as like this was John KUCKIAN with 2 subscribers. KUCKIAN was a big deal at this time. His videos were getting hundreds and thousands of views. He was raking in the cash. He was getting paid left and right. And the people he made his videos on were getting sent so much hate. Even if he so much as uttered your name on Twitter with a negative tone and said, "I just kinda don't like this," even casually, within seconds of you being name dropped, you would be flooded with hate, the likes of which you had never seen. People with 2 subscribers who said, "I don't like John KUCKIAN" in a video even once would be told to kill themselves. They would be threatened with rape. It was terrible. It was disgusting. Luckily, the drama scene is a little better now, kind of, from the outside, from what I can see. I don't know. We just don't have people doing that anymore. It was terrible. As a small creator, Thomas freaked the fuck out. He sent him all the money he could at the time, begged him not to put the video up because even though none of the accusations were true and would hold up in any sort of court, he knew that if KUCKIAN said it, some people would believe it, regardless of the fact. This was before he had been utterly owned and discredited by Margot Indigo and Petty Page and literally everyone in the community after they realized, hey, if we speak up, we take away his power. So Thomas paid him what he could, which was not not the amount that KUCKIAN asked for, so KUCKIAN still put up the video and then quickly took it down. But the video had already done its damage. He, the biggest drama channel at the time, just accused someone of sexual misconduct with absolutely zero proof. It was insane, it was disgusting, and he did it again later to Peter Mon. So all of this sounds familiar, and all of this is a pattern. Both Thomas and NIKKIE were given a couple days to respond. Both Thomas and NIKKIE were threatened via email and told by the other person that they felt like they were morally obligated to expose this person because they just had a duty to the world. Both Thomas and NIKKIE were told that this was going to ruin them, destroy their careers, absolutely demolish them. And in every case that John is a part of, that absolutely did not happen. Frankly, I am of the belief that John KUCKIAN is probably the only person on YouTube, in this little YouTube space, who is dumb enough to have threatened her the way he did, who is dumb enough to have just done any of this. He is the only person on YouTube in this specific arena that I think would use this situation, use her identity to either get money or get clout or try to get back on top, because he's such a disgusting person and his views are completely down and no one gives a shit about him anymore. He has done the same thing to Peter Mon, to Thomas Halbert. So personally, my personal opinion, I think it's him. I think this is a pattern of behavior with him, and I wouldn't doubt if she came out and said so. Anyway, that is just my theory. Let me know yours in the comments down below. With that in mind, I hope you guys have a super awesome day. Be a good ally and show NIKKIE some love, and I will see you in my next video. Later.